The monolith in Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey is the most consistent symbol in the film. Kubrick utilizes the camera in ways that capture the monolith's presence, but in doing so, he also captures the monolith's intelligence. One of the most striking cinematic parallels he creates is between two scenes, the evolutionary epiphany of prehistoric man and the second evolutionary epiphany of postmodern man. The similarities and differences in the cinematic representation of the monolith demonstrate the deliberate progression of the monolith through time, and its role as the driving force behind David Bowman's ultimate encounter with the Stargate, and our own. Once we become a subject of the monolith, Kubrick portrays the monolith in a very different way than when we are merely the observer. This is the monolith's first appearance to humanity. We see the monolith from the static viewpoint of an omniscient, unmoving camera. The long shot monitors the movements of all the early humans. There is no pan, track, or zoom. Kubrick cuts immediately to another static, more intimate view of the apes as they begin to acknowledge the monolith. Then Kubrick cuts to a closer shot again, right as the apes begin to touch the monolith. It is as if, in an abstract way, the camera is aware of the apes' curiosity, moving closer only as their trust in the monolith grows. Now, only the apes brave enough to embrace the monolith are in shot, whereas the others are off shot, until eventually all the apes are bestowed with the monolith's epiphany of knowledge. Then the monolith is shown as if from the point of view of the humans, as they look straight up into the sky to see the monolith in alignment with the sun and the moon against the sky. This scene shows the monolith's second encounter with humanity, except this time the monolith has been discovered on the moon. Here the frame is much more mobile than during the monolith's first appearance. Again, the camera starts by observing from a faraway distance. Again, the monolith is placed visible at the center of the frame as the omniscient camera observes the movements of the astronauts as they approach it. This time, however, Kubrick moves the camera to follow the astronauts into the dig site by placing us in the point of view of the astronauts as they walk down the ramp. Then, as we get to the bottom, the camera cuts to what appears to be the point of view of the monolith. The lens changed into a longer focal length to mark the change of perspective from that of the astronauts to that of the monolith. It also makes the movements of the astronauts more confined and cautious as they blend together on the ramp. The implied meaning of the point of view shot is that perhaps the first form of humanity was not aware enough for us to see from their point of view, but the astronauts are evolved enough for the camera to be able to observe the monolith from their point of view in a meaningful way. Interestingly, the camera cuts to a shot with an almost identical composition to that of the prehistoric scene. The monolith lies in the center as the humans begin to group around it. Except this time, the shots alternate to and from handheld point of view shots, unlike the prehistoric scene. Then, about 2 minutes into the scene, one of the astronauts emulates the cautious embrace of the monolith shown by his prehistoric counterpart. The camera cuts closer from a medium shot to a close-up of the astronaut's hand during the iconic reach to touch the monolith. Once the spell is broken and the astronauts once again try to take a picture, the perspective changes to a lower angle shot of the monolith, much like the shot toward the end of the prehistoric scene. In this way, Kubrick hints that we are nearing the end of the scene, that the monolith is about to bestow the second epiphany onto mankind. Right as the astronauts are about to take the picture, the monolith shrieks as if consummating its second encounter with humanity. Sure enough, what follows is the exact same perspective of the monolith against the sky, aligned perfectly with the sun and the moon as it was shown eons ago. David Bowman's final encounter with the monolith occurs as he floats through space, overlooking the monolith in perfect alignment with Jupiter and her moons. Just as the monolith rotates to become perfectly horizontal to Bowman's point of view, it disappears completely into the blackness of space behind. Then the camera pans upward until we are confronted with a pure black screen. This screen becomes the Stargate, which Bowman then enters. The streams of light support a vertical rectangular structure. What we are actually staring into is the monolith itself. The monolith is the Stargate. When the camera moved upwards from the alignment of Jupiter and her moons, what we were actually approaching was the monolith itself. The monolith becomes the black cinematic screen we see immediately after, combined with the eerie singing that occurs with every evolutionary step of man. We, as the viewer, are looking into the face of the monolith. It is our turn to evolve. We know we have confronted our own evolution once the Stargate ends in a show of exploding light, symbolizing our final awareness of the universe and our own rebirth. Kubrick captures the monolith on film using the camera in ways that demonstrate the monolith's consistent role throughout the evolution of humanity. When we, as the viewer, observed the monolith's effect on man, it was our chance to also observe the messages that Kubrick left behind. Once it was our turn to evolve, the monolith behaved in the same way it always did, but the camera did not. The camera's behavior changed to reflect the change in our role from observer to subject.